What's up, guys? It's Tearless here, and I'm back inside Lights Hope Chapel for the second part of the Retribution video series, looking at what is coming to Retribution Paladins in World of Warcraft Legion. Definitely, in the first episode, our first video, we looked at the abilities and artifact weapon that is for coming to a Retribution Paladin in Legion, and there were some concerns on the PvP side of things on, what was going to happen with them, whether or not they would have sticking power, etc. Just doing my quick little look up through what we're going to see here in this talent video, looking at the PvP and PvE talents. I do think those fears are kind of alleviated, and we will go through them. In addition to that, we will also get some cool abilities and additions for the PvE side of things. Overall, I think this talent tree really rounds out the changes to Retribution Paladins in World of Warcraft Legion, and you guys are really going to like it. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and look into the talent tree. We're going to start with the PvE talent tree. Now, I showed you in the last episode, sounds like I'm on my own TV show, I showed you in the last video that Consecration has a new spell visual. I wasn't paying attention though. Consecration actually is a talent. It's baseline for Prot, but it is a talent that can be acquired for a Rep Paladin. I think maybe even Holy Paladins can acquire it through a talent. I can't quite remember if it's baseline for them. It's not baseline for them. And I can't remember. It is baseline for them, excuse me. So they have a baseline, Prot has a baseline, and then Ret can acquire it through a talent. Let's go ahead and just show off that spell visual. It's really cool. Sound effect's pretty awesome. So that's something you can add into your rotation if you want to. However, there's some other interesting choices. First is going to be Execution Sentence. Once I get out of combat here. The old Execution Sentence, if I remember correctly, is a 1 minute cooldown, and it doesn't cost anything, but it's a 1 minute cooldown, and it just deals dealt damage or healing depending on what spec you were. This one's different. It now costs 3 holy power, and it will deal a lot of damage over 7.5 seconds, but it's an 18.8 second cooldown. So this is another, form of you actually having to use your holy power. It's another holy power spender. So we'll go ahead and use it here, and as you can see, I can use Execution Sentence and then work on my other holy power spending abilities that I want to, like Templar's Verdict and so forth. So what it does is, in my opinion, it doesn't last long enough, and the cooldown is short enough to where it's not a rotational ability. It's more of a priority. It puts it into a priority rotation. So Execution Sentence is going to be, in a PvE sense, it's going to do more damage than Templar's Verdict. So you're going to want to take Execution Sentence, and you'll use that every time over Templar's Verdict whenever you have 3 holy power. However, the final option here is it's a passive. It increases damage by Templar's Verdict by 20%, and the damage done by Divine Storm by 10%. So, you have basically 3 options here. You can go with Consecration. If you feel as though there is a gap in the Paladin, if you feel as though there is a gap in the Paladin rotation, as though you are, you're able to use a button almost all the time, there are times in which you're not able to use a button, you're just sitting there waiting for holy power generators or something to go off, then you can go for something like Consecration to fill that gap. I do not think Consecration itself is strong enough to go into the rotation. You'd be better off served if you can continue to build up holy power, and use your normal abilities. I honestly think you're going to get better damage out of that. And so Consecration I don't see as a very good option unless you actually find yourself running out of holy power. You find yourself in dry periods in which you actually don't have an ability to spend. You don't have Crusader Strike up, you don't have Judgment up, you don't have enough holy power to use any of your holy abilities, you don't have Blade of Justice up. If you ever find yourself in that situation that you have that area in which you don't have enough holy power, and your holy power creators and judgment, holy power generators, sorry, creators, your holy power generators and judgment are not up, then consecration can fill that gap. But otherwise, I don't think consecration is going to be useful at all. It would be useful in PvP maybe as another extra ability, but once again, in PvP, you definitely are not going to have that issue of not having an ability up, not having a downtime. So I don't see consecration being taken at all by any paladin, period, just because of that fact. If we're talking about AoE damage, then yes, definitely I see consecration being taken on a very AoE damage oriented fight. That's the only time I see it being taken. Mythic dungeons, probably, and raiding with AoE fights. That's it. Otherwise, you will not see consecration taken. Execution sentence will for sure be taken by all PvEers because it is a massive damage boost compared to even Final Verdict with its buff here. Still would only hit for 137,000. It's just not as strong as Execution Sentence. Execution Sentence is way better. Final Verdict may be taken for PvPers because it's more burst. So you can get more burst damage out of it than something like Final Verdict would. However, if you feel that's not going to be an issue, remember the Execution Sentence is a 20-yard range. So if you want to continue to have continuous damage on the target, and you're worried about your sticking power to the target, Execution Sentence may just be the best choice all around to take for PvPers and PvEers in World of Warcraft Legion. The only reason you would take Final Verdict once again over basic the Execution Sentence would be basically if you want more burst out of Templar's Verdict, so you can get more kind of surprise on the opponent. But for the most part, I see Execution Sentence easily being the option that everyone takes as a Ret Paladin in all forms, with the few exceptions of Consecration. I don't think the extra 10% damage by Divine Storm is enough. Maybe there will be some areas that this will be more useful. I don't know. Maybe Final Verdict is changed a little bit before this goes live. We'll see. But for right now, Execution Sentence is king, in my opinion. In the 30 tier, we talked about that a lot, that 15 tier a lot. In the 30 tier, we have Greater Judgment. Now, in the first video, I talked about Judgment hitting 3 additional targets. It actually only hits 1 additional target. So if I were to switch off of it real quick, you'll see I'll still be able to hit 2 targets. But it's not as powerful anymore. Your Judgment ability hits 2 additional nearby targets and always deals a critical strike against targets above 75% health. So that's really powerful. Like, I'm always going to get that critical strike, you know, if they're above 75% health, and considering this is a 30-yard range, that's pretty powerful to have. However, it faces some fierce competition. I'm not kidding when I say the talent tree for a Ret Paladin is very interesting, and it's almost completely brand new. You'll notice that there's almost no abilities returning. I mean, just a quick glance, there's Divine Purpose, Repentance, and the 45. Divine Purpose and the 45 tier is basically it, besides Word of Glory and Consecration and Execution Sentence. So, for the most part, this is completely different. Don't be fooled by Sealed Light, it's completely different. So, let's look at Zeal. Zeal will replace your Crusader Strike. Strike the target for 94,000 physical damage, maximum 2 charges, so just like Crusader Strike has 2 charges. Grants Zeal, causing Zeal attacks to chain 2 additional nearby targets per attack. Maximum 3 stacks. Each jump deals 40% less damage. So it's like Chain Lightning on melee scale. So I'm going to put Zeal on the target, and then I should be able to chain to different targets. I may be too far away to actually be able to show this off, which is odd because I feel like if Judgment is in range, this should be in range as well. But it's either it's not functioning the way it should be, or I honestly cannot explain why it's not jumping to the other targets. So it must have a really short range, or it's not functioning correctly. My guess is it probably has a really short range. This is an AoE option though. It kind of comes in with another AoE option in the Greater Judgment, so you can basically be like, okay, I can hit 4 targets for, you know, if they're all above 75% health, and deal 100% chance critical strike against them, or I can decide to go with Zeal, and basically it's going to deal more damage than Crusader Strike. Crusader Strike only hits for, I believe, 65,000 damage, 53,000 damage, so it almost near doubles how much how much damage Crusader Strike does. It's the same cooldown, but you now have an AoE. The only problem is that the AoE is not very large, so you kind of get your choice in AoE here. Which brings us to the last option, which is Fires of Justice. Reduces the cooldown on Crusader Strike by 1.5 seconds, so brings it down to a 2.84 second recharge, and gives it a 20% chance to reduce the cost of your next damaging or holy power ability by 1. This is probably what I see PvPers taking for sure, and possibly PvEers as well. I mean, this is a ridiculously low cooldown this is a ridiculously low cooldown for a Crusader Strike. So you never are going to have issues with basically your holy power generation if you decide to go this route. As you can see right here, I'm trying to truck through this as quickly as possible and kind of, you know, take out as much as I can, and I have so much holy power, it doesn't even matter. It's ridiculous. So I think this is going to be, it may be to the point that it's just too powerful, that it's really not worth it. Let's see if we can get that buff to actually show up. I didn't see that buff actually show up. There it is right there. Fires of Justice, your next damaging ability, now costs 1 less. As you can see there, I basically get a 1 holy power off. So this just oversaturates you with holy power, which is quite amazing. It's kind of gonna give you like the choice of, wait, is Blade of Justice better or is Crusader Strike better? Because I could possibly get a buff with Crusader Strike to reduce the actual, you know, holy power count of my holy power spending abilities, but at the same time, you know, Blade of Justice does so much more damage, and it grants too. So it's really going to be up to you. It's really going to be up to the theory crafters to decide, you know, hey, what is the best option here? But overall, there's a lot of interesting options here. Probably in PvP, I'm going to actually say I think Greater Judgment might have the edge, just because I feel like this will be... okay, no. Probably Fires of Justice. This is actually kind of tough for me, because... So you have the critical strike damage on this, and Judgment hits for a lot now. It's no silly damage. It actually hits for a lot now, especially with that buff and the artifact weapon power. But you're never gonna get to a point where you never have, you know, you never have downtime. You have downtime. You're always gonna have downtime. You're always gonna have 0 downtime if in PvP, because there's like I barely even have it in when I'm just straight attacking a training target dummy with you know, without the Fires of Justice. So having it in PvP, I would never have downtime in PvP at all. Like, it just wouldn't happen. I don't think it would really ever happen. But if you can stick to a target really well in PvE, in PvP, then Fires of Justice is just going to be really strong. So it's going to be up to the theory crafters in terms of PvE of what's going to be better in terms of AoE damage, and what's going to be better in terms of, you know, actual, you know, this Fire of Justice really kind of makes things interesting, and it kind of, it has the RNG in there with the 20%, so it's going to be up to them, and it'll be really interesting. So, in the 45 tier, this looks very similar, however, each one of these is a little bit different from the way it is on live. First off being Fist of Justice, your damage dealing abilities that spend holy power reduce the remaining cooldown on Hammer of Justice by 8 seconds. Now you just pair this with Fires of Justice. Let's see just how quickly we can start to reduce the cooldown on this. Oh, I didn't even get Fist of Justice. I'm stupid. Hang on. Let's go ahead and come on, switch out while Fist of Justice is still off cooldown. Alright, now we'll start using it and building it up and starting to burn through. And as you can see, it starts to truck through the cooldown of Hammer of Justice. Now, when used on a, I tested this on a Holy Paladin. Basically, it really didn't do much because you couldn't really produce enough holy power and spend enough holy power to reduce this enough in time. However, with how quickly you can generate holy power with Fires of Justice, paired with Fist of Justice, it can be really powerful. However, you have some other really interesting options. Repentance forces an enemy to meditate, incapacitating them, and incapacitating the target, and dealing up to 25% of the target's health and damage over 1 minute. That's really powerful. This is going to be the Mythic Dungeon choice, okay? Because this deals 25% of its health in damage over the time. Over 1 minute. So that's pretty awesome. You're able to knock someone out and deal 25% of the damage in that same amount of time period, which is pretty awesome. I honestly, if anyone is just into straight Mythic Dungeons, I see them taking Repentance without question. Like, it's not even a question what they will take here. It's to me, it's obvious that they will take Repentance just because of how strong it is. The last option here is going to be Blinding Light. Emits a dazzling light in all directions. This is like your old Blinding Light, except for that basically it actually deals holy damage now when it actually activates. So we'll go ahead and use it here just so we can see. Do I have this on my person? I don't think I do. I'll just drag it down. Alright, and you're going to see here I'm going to do damage to all of them as well. So there's been damage added, and I believe its cooldown's been reduced by 0.5. Yes, it's been reduced by 0.5 minutes, so it's now 30 seconds less, 1.5 minute cooldown. Repentance, 15-second cooldown. Still the same, however, the change with that is the 25% damage, and then the Fist of Justice has been changed completely. Whereas on classes like Holy, you really it ends up being the same as it is on Live, if not worse. Fist of Justice can be really powerful, I think, when paired with something like the Fires of Justice. Right now, this is probably what I would select right now as my first 3 options. I can't switch to Fist of Justice, but that's what I would choose. But I'm a PvPer, so things kind of change. This next tier is all about your actual Blade of Justice, which is really cool. First is Virtue's Blade. Blade of Justice, critical strike, now deal 3 times normal damage. So let's just see if we can get a critical strike on this here. 82,000 damage. That seemed kind of low. Let's see if we can get some better damage out of that. That was a critical strike and it didn't even deal what it was supposed to. Okay, so there must be a bug here because it says it's dealing 130,000 physical damage, but it's not showing up anywhere near that. So there's a bug in the damage here, but it's critting, or it's hitting for normal 93,000 physical damage. So let's see if we can finally get this to crit at some point. I will continue to use it and see if we can get this to work. If not, I'm going to stop probably after this one. Okay, there we go. There's a critical. 246,000 damage as a critical. So it's like a burst potential there, which is really nice. However, remember that's every 7.54 seconds, so it's going to be up to you. This is definitely the PvPer's option. In my opinion, it's burst damage. This tier, once again, is really going to be up to the theory crafters to find out which one is better. And I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. Pretty much every talent is different here, so it's really kind of making it fun with Rep Paladins here. The next option here is Blade of Wrath, and this is probably going to be my selection for PvP, and you'll understand when I get to the Honor talents. But Blade of Wrath will replace your Blade of Justice. Its cooldown is actually reduced, so it's originally like a 7.54 second. It's reduced by about a second. Okay, strikes an enemy with a Blade of Wrath, dealing 44,000 holy damage and an additional 38,000 holy damage over 5.7 seconds. So just to give you an idea, Blade of Justice dealt 81,000, average around there with that. Let's switch to Blade of Wrath, and we'll see how much it does once I'm out of combat here. And we'll switch here and use it. 46,000, and then it's going to deal damage over time to the point it was about, what, 70,000 damage total. So Blade of Wrath hit for 45, and then you had 3 ticks equating to about 12,000. So 3645, you're looking at 80,000. You're looking at about the same amount of damage. The only difference is that this is holy damage, whereas this is physical damage. Now you do lose the 3 times when it critical strikes. It will no longer deal that 3 times damage, so you're losing that, which kind of stinks. But at the same time, you deal holy damage. So in PvP, your damage against armor is no longer mitigated when you use Blade of Justice, because you'll be using something that deals holy damage. So that's something to think about. And then when we actually get to the PvP talents, you'll understand why I prefer to use Blade of Wrath over the others, even though I lose the burst potential of Virtue's Blade. So let's look at Divine Hammer. This is something that I see really only... this is something I really only see PvEers taking. But even then, I think it may cause you to have downtime if you choose to take this as a PvEer, which then you may not like. Maybe if you take Fires of Justice, it will be okay to take Divine Hammer. But the problem here is that Divine Hammer is a 9.42 second cooldown, so its cooldown is 2 seconds above Blade of above Blade of Justice. So it's going to be kind of difficult to not have downtime, and then I hate downtime more than anything, as I described in the last video. So what Divine Hammer does: Divine Hammers spin around you, damaging enemies within 8 yards for 15,000 holy damage instantly, and then another every 1.9 seconds for 9.4 seconds. So it is constant damage. So the theory crafters will have to decide whether the actual kind of damage that you're getting off of this, and its AoE damage, is going to be worth it versus the downtime that you'll probably incur by not having Blade of Justice as your main kind of holy power OPO generator. Definitely, if you're in a battle with a lot of AoE, this is going to be your option. So when you get into a battle with a lot of AoE, you're going to be looking at Divine Hammer, you're going to be looking at Consecration, maybe Greater Judgment or Zeal, I'm not quite sure. Possibly Blade of Blinding Light as well, because it does holy damage. So, I mean, that's something that you're going to look at for AoE. I think this will be a no-brainer for AoE fights, but for your general single-target fight, I think it's probably going to end up being Blade of Wrath or Virtue's Blade, because once again, this is going to give you more downtime, but once again, if it does enough damage over downtime, you might be able to survive it. Let me go ahead and use this here, and we'll see. It's 15,000 damage, 3 ticks, 4 ticks, 5 ticks, looks like 6 ticks total. So you're going to get 6 ticks out of it, of doing 18,000, or it looks like it went up a little bit over time. An average around anywhere from 15 to 18,000 damage. I believe that's what happened. My Surge of Victory procced. So you're getting about 15,000 times 6, 90,000. You're dealing basically the same, just slightly more than Virtue's Blade and Blade of Wrath, which makes me think, unless there's an AoE, unless it is an AoE fight, this is not going to be worth it in PvE. So with that, let's move to the 75 tier. I apologize, this is already looking like it's going to be a long video, and that's just because there's so many interesting things going on with Ret Paladins in World of Warcraft Legion. The first option here is going to be Justicar's Vengeance. 5 holy power is how much it costs. It is melee range, a weapon strike that deals 173,000 damage, holy damage, and restores health equal to the damage done. Let's go play with Fate here. I'm so scared. I'm just gonna wreck myself. Oh goodness. So I took a lot of damage there. Let's go ahead and build my holy power up, and we will go ahead and see just how much this does in my healing. As you can see right there, it healed for about 1/5 of my bar. Now if the target's stunned, it will deal more. That's something you should look out for. So let me go ahead and switch, get out of combat. I'm going to switch to Virtue's Blade if I can get out of combat. You know what, I think the reason why I'm in combat is because I made the mistake of fiddling with the tanking dummy. So, alright. Now I need to quickly get back here so I can test this while I still have health lost. Let's go ahead and build up our holy power real quick here, and then we'll see just how much we're able to get out of this. We're going to stun, and then use it. 347,000 damage, so I got 347,000 healing. That puts you have 1.4 million health bar. When I've been in a battleground, I've been sitting at around 2.2 million health. So the heal is not as big as you might think, and for 5 holy power, that's quite a lot. Your other options in this tier: Eye for an Eye. We'll get back to that in a second because that's a long cooldown, and I think since this is actually charges, we can switch off of it really quickly. So we have Word of Glory here. Good old Word of Glory. Go in, you deal damage, and then Word of Glory will come up. Costs 3 holy power, and it heals your buddies as well. So here we go. Word of Glory. It's got kind of an explosion around you. It looks very much like a Holy Nova, and it heals you for 130,000, and then your allies as well for 130,000. So in all honesty, unless the target's stunned, you're going to heal for a lot out of this. At least you're going to get some AoE healing with your friends. So it depends on your situation. Raid healing, I think this will really help out raid healing much better than just Scar's Vengeance. I see this as being something that PvE rep Paladins will take for sure. This is what I would take as a PvE rep Paladin, because it really kind of takes a load off your healers just a little bit, being able to heal the melee that you're all with in a raid situation. PvPers, I probably see taking Eye for an Eye. Eye for an Eye reduces physical damage you take by 35% and instantly counterattacks any enemy that strikes you in melee in combat for 47,000 physical damage. So I'm just going to show this to you. I'm not going to test fate by attacking the tanking dummy over there. So as you can see right there, that is a very warrior-esque ability that they've just given to Paladins there. It looks very much like Retaliation, and you know, it really kind of functions like Retaliation. So that's probably why they use the same visual effect there, but that's what Eye for an Eye is. I mean, if you remember the old Eye for an Eye that you would get in the old talent trees, basically it was that you always dealt a certain amount of damage back at the opponent. And so that's what this one does. It's a 1-minute cooldown. 35% physical reduction is pretty good, and counterattacking for 47,000 physical damage is pretty strong. And for 10 seconds, that's pretty good. Having that 1/6 uptime, 15 or 18% or whatever it is, uptime on this is pretty good. This is personally what I would choose for PvP. In the 90 tier, we have some fun options here. The first is going to be Seal of Light. So, as I said, this is nothing like the old Seal of Light. They're just calling it that, and they're, I guess, using Seal of Truth's icon. They like to mess with their heads like that. Draw upon Holy Energy to increase your movement speed by 20% for 20 seconds per Holy Power spent. Honestly, this is useless, in my opinion. Yes, you know, I can get 5 Holy Power and burn Holy Light, and I will have a 2-minute buff of 20%, you know, movement speed buff. Yeah, it's great. I don't know if it's the best, though, to be honest. We'll see how things go, but this feels like a mandatory buff, and I feel like this, I really hope this isn't something that's really going to be required to take for PvPers. I do not think it is. When we actually get to the PvP talent tree, you'll see I don't think that's going to be a requirement for you to have this, but, you know, maybe it's something that you can use, you know, when you actually build up your Holy Power. I mean, you can use this once and then use Holy Power to get 2 seconds of it, and the problem is that if you use a 5-stack of it, you can't get the you can't get it elsewhere. So there I have 40 seconds of it. So you can use Virtue's Blade and then Seal of Light to kind of close gap on players, but I don't know how popular this will be. But this is really a PvP only talent. It really is. Divine Steed. This is awesome. This is baseline for well, first let's go to Divine Intervention. This is a passive, and I won't test this out, but this is what the PvEers are going to take, I think, without question. Reduces your Divine Shield cooldown by 50%. In addition, any attack that would kill you would instead reduce you to 20% of your maximum health and triggers Divine Shield. Cannot occur while Divine Shield is on cooldown or forbearance is active. So this brings Divine Shield down to a 2.5-minute cooldown, which is pretty powerful. I don't think we've ever had that before. That's a really amazing reduction in the cooldown there, and it automatically activates when you die. I personally like this best in PvP. This is my favorite option in PvP. because that's an insane cooldown. Remember that your damage is no longer reduced when Divine Shield is active, so that's one thing that's nice. And you kind of have like that emergency, it will trigger and heal you if you know, you actually do die. So you actually kind of, you get a 20% heal out of it. I mean, you can use Divine Shield early if you want, but you don't get the 20% heal. Like if it kills you all the way, if you never use Divine Shield and it kills you all the way, you get a 20% heal out of it, and then while you're sitting there for 8 seconds, you can heal yourself up even more, or you can go into attack. I don't know. But this is my personal favorite option, even though this one in the center is really awesome. This is Divine Steed. It summons your holy mount for 3 seconds, increasing movement speed by 100%, usable while indoors or in combat. This is awesome. This will chase down the enemy, and if they ever try and get away from you. So, as you can see right here, I can just roll in here and attack people on my mount, which is freaking awesome. It's a way to catch up to people and deal damage. The only problem with it I have is that it's on the global cooldown. I really feel like it should be off the global cooldown, but maybe that would make it too strong. But it's really great to have to catch up to characters. However, it's only on a 3-second cooldown, and you know, you can't, like I said, you can't do anything until you actually are able to get in range of them. I mean, you can put Hand of Hindrance on them to slow them down, but even then, you can use Hand of Hindrance at a 30-yard range. So I'm not so sure about this. I personally like Divine Intervention more. Divine Steed is awesome on other Paladin specs, especially Prot, which it comes baseline. But for Ret Paladins, I probably like Divine Intervention better. And that's with the knowledge of what's coming in the PvP talent tree, which we'll discuss. But for now, it's an option. Like, you can use this every 45 seconds to close the range on someone and get there faster. I guess you could say it's like it's not a Paladin blink, but it's kind of like it. You know how mages like to just blink all over the place to quickly get places, even outside of PvP combat, just like normal, like walking around Dalaran. I can see Paladins doing this. Like, they're just trying to get from place to place, and they'll use their Divine Steed all the time. And I know that annoyed the developers that mages blink all the time to move around, and this will probably do the same thing, and it'll annoy them too. But in this tier, I personally like Divine Intervention. You'll probably understand why when we get to the honored talents. But people may still like this, or Seal of Light. It's an option for you. Finally, in the 100 tier, we have Divine Purpose. This functions just like, you know, the other Divine Purpose. However, it's not as potent. The old Divine Purpose was, I believe, 25% chance. This one's only 15% chance. So kind of a bummer there, a reduction on it. But really, it's still one of my absolute favorite abilities. It's just so strong. It really is useful. There's Crusade. I hope Crusade will not prevent me from switching to Holy Wrath, because it is a long cooldown. But Crusade will replace your Avenging Wrath and increases your damage and haste by 2% for 27.5 seconds. The reason it's 27.5 seconds because you have that buff in the artifact weapon. So each holy power spent during Crusade increases the damage and haste by an additional 2%. So let's go ahead and see, let's go ahead and first build up our holy power here. Of course, that's not going to build it up. Let's build up our holy power here. Get all the way to max. And from there, let's go ahead and use Crusade and begin to use this holy power, and we'll see what kind of haste I actually get out of this. I just wasted holy power right there. And there you go. More and more. The haste is going up. I don't know how many stacks we're at now. We're at 13 stacks, 9 seconds left. 15 stacks, we're at a full 15 stacks, and we are dealing a lot of damage really quickly. So this is a possible option for PvP, definitely. For PvE, definitely also another possible option, because at full 15 stacks, you're dealing 30% increased damage and 30% increased haste, which makes it really powerful. I believe your basic, oh darn, I knew that was going to happen. So I gotta wait until its cooldown's over for me to switch to Holy Wrath so you can see it. But compared to Avenging Wrath is still a 2-minute cooldown. but I believe it only increases your damage by 20% or 30%, I can't remember, but you don't get the haste out of it. So it's going to be, you know, if you combine this with Fires of Justice, I can see this being really popular, but it's really going to be kind of up to the theory crafters to decide what is really going to maximize your DPS output and do the most damage. With that being said, let's go ahead and read off Holy Wrath, so that when Crusade comes off cooldown, we can go straight into it. Holy Wrath is coming back as an ability with a different icon, I believe. I actually think this might be the old icon for Holy Wrath. I could be wrong. But it deals holy damage to up to 4 enemies within 10 yards, equal to 150% of your missing health. 35% of missing health against enemy players. I'm sorry, I started laughing right here because I'm debating with myself. I'm debating with myself how much I want to test the fate here. Okay, that's enough. That's enough. I'm not going any further. So my health is really low here. Let's go ahead and switch off into, once I get out of combat, if I can switch off into Holy Wrath here. And we'll see how much damage I can do with this, and we can see just how potent this is. So once I finally get out of combat here, I will be able to show you what Holy Wrath does. Hopefully that'll occur soon. You know when you're in combat here because it'll say talents can only be changed while rested in an EXP rested EXP area. So let me get this off of me, and hopefully we can get out of combat here so I can show you Holy Wrath. Definitely that training dummy has a habit of keeping me in combat, which is really irritating. Okay, for the interest of time, I'm gonna go ahead and switch to PvP talents, and then we will come back to this when I'm actually out of combat. I cannot believe it still has me in combat, which is really frustrating. So the way PvP works in World of Warcraft is you're gonna start at level 1. You'll level all the way up to level 50, and then once you're at level 50, you will be able to prestige and start back over. You start leveling up your talents. You'll start at level 1, you'll work your way all the way to level 10, and you'll get Lawbringer, and then at level 13 you'll start it with Adaptation, go all the way down to Divine Punisher, and then the last tier you'll work your way all the way down until level 46, in which you'll get Hammer of Reckoning. Then you can reach level 15, and you can prestige right there if you decide to. So that'll be your choice right there on whether or not you decide to actually do that. And then, you know, it's going to be kind of okay, do I want to prestige and lose all of my talents? Because if you prestige, you lose all your talents and start back at level 1. Or do I want to just keep them all and not have to worry about them anymore? Personally, that's probably what I would do. I'd be like, I don't feel like starting it all over again. And that's probably what I would do, though it could change for anybody. So it's entirely up to them to, it's entirely up to you to decide what you want to do. It looks like I'm finally out of combat, so I can go ahead and test Holy Wrath. But just know that is how the PvP system is going to work in World of Warcraft Legion. So, with that, let's look at this last ability. Holy Wrath, once again, deals holy damage equal to up to 4 enemies within 10 yards, equal to 150% of your missing health, 35% of the missing health against enemy players. Right now, I'm missing like over 50% of my health, so let's go ahead and fire this off and see how much damage it actually does. I actually have it down here, and we'll go ahead and use it right there. And I was able to do 1,134,171 damage. 1 million damage. That's a lot. There's a reason why it's only 35% health against enemy players. And that's because that would knock out half their health bar if that managed to go through, which would hurt. So, definitely a really powerful ability. I'm not sure how it will play out in PvE, because you're kind of, you know, you're playing with fate there. If you happen to get your damage real low, you can go ahead and, you know, fire it off. If you're in coordination with your healers, be like, okay guys, we're in a safe area of the raid, let me get my health down, and I'm going to use my Holy Wrath. It's going to be real risk. High risk, high reward on Holy Wrath, which is a lot of fun. So we'll see how that one turns out and how popular it is. and we'll see if there's any changes coming its way for that one. In that tier, though, in my personal opinion, I'd probably go with Divine Purpose. That would be my choice for that tier. So, with that, let's go ahead and look at the PvP talents. So, when you first start PvP, you'll get an Honorable Medallion, and that Honorable Medallion is like a 3-minute trinket. And you have a way to change that 3-minute trinket with this first tier. First is taking Gladiator's Medallion, which removes all scenarios. It's the same as a 2-minute trinket. So basically reduces the cooldown by 1 minute, replaces your Honorable Medallion. So this is your basic 2-minute trinket. Adaptation, all also control effects with a duration of 5 seconds or more, will activate your Honorable Medallion spell, but only causes it to incur a 60-second cooldown. I kind of like this for DPS in PvP, but everyone can be different. A lot of people really like having control over when they actually use their trinket. Now, you will be able to use Honorable Medallion, but when you actually use it, it will cause Adaptation to also go on a 3-minute cooldown as opposed to a 60-second cooldown, so take note of that. In the third option here is Relentless. It replaces your Honorable Medallion. The duration of incoming crowd control effects is reduced by 25%. I honestly don't see anybody but tanks really taking this. However, do remember, let's pull this up here. Do remember that there is the artifact weapon talent of Unbreakable Will. When unable to act in combat for more than 2 seconds, Ashbringer will break you free. Can only occur once every 2 minutes. So you have an adaptation-esque talent in your artifact weapon, which is pretty strong. So just think about that. Maybe Relentless could be used by a Retribution Paladin. Maybe. But for the most part, I'd probably choose Adaptation or Gladiator's Medallion. Probably Adaptation. Just because it's 60-second cooldown, but if you want more control, Gladiator's Medallion is your option. In the second tier, this is the basically the melee DPS tier. Hardiness, when above 80% health, you take 20% less damage. You have Reinforced Armor, health increased by 10%, and then you have Sparring, physical melee attacks have a 20% chance to be blunted, dealing 50% reduced damage. So if you have trouble with melee, that's the one you go with. Otherwise, you have the other options open to you. In the third tier, this is the one where I think all Paladin kind of fears will be alleviated. You have Jurisdiction. Increases the range of Hammer of Justice ability by 10 yards. This is utterly worthless, in my opinion. It's already a 10-yard range. I think putting it at a 20-yard range is not going to make that much of a difference. I think 10 yards is plenty, and I honestly think no one's going to take this. There's Unbound Freedom. Blessing of Freedom also increases movement speed by 20%, which is all great. The only problem is, Blessing of Freedom being dispelled off of you, which stinks. 25-second cooldown. So you have 8 seconds of 20% increased movement speed, but it can be dispelled off of you. It's just, it's the same thing that Paladins have complained about for a long time, about, Blessing of Freedom. You guys have Blessing of Freedom. You should be fine catching up to enemies, whatever. I'm not buying it with, I never bought it, and I think Ret Paladins still don't buy it. Basically, I think it's absurd. And I can't believe I am not out of combat yet with this whatever is keeping me in combat. With that, this is the ultimate talent. This is the one that is going to work. When your Hand of Hindrance is dispelled or otherwise removed early, the cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. Okay? So, it's originally a 30-second cooldown. 70% reduction, 30-yard range for 10 seconds. If it's dispelled, it's reduced by 15 seconds. But the real ringer on this one, the one that changes everything, is your Blade of Justice applies Hand of Hindrance to the target for 3 seconds. This is awesome. Basically, this is your sticking power. Because remember, Blade of Justice is a 12-yard range. It's not melee range. It's a 12-yard range. I'm able to sit back here and hit it from here. So I can snare them from this far away. That's a big distance to be able to snare a target 70%. Hand of Hindrance is really powerful. And Law and Order is going to be the #1 talent taken by far. It's just so much better than the others. It has to be taken. And I just don't see any situation in which it is not taken. Which explains why I like Blade of Wrath, because this has a 1-second cooldown, and it basically ensures that I have a 50% uptime on Hand of Hindrance at all times on my target, which is really strong. Very few classes are able to keep this type of uptime on a 70% reduction in your movement speed, and it's going to cripple classes. this will be absolutely crippling to classes, without question. So I honestly see this being the #1 talent. I wish I could switch into Blade of Wrath so that I could actually show you, see if this actually switches. I'm pretty sure it does. I do not know why I have not gotten out of combat. I think this is absolutely absurd. In the 3rd tier, we have Holy Ritual. Allies are healed for 32,000 when you cast a blessing spell on them, and healed again for 32,000 when the blessing ends. 32,000 is very minute and very little. I do not know how popular this will be. There is Pure of Heart. Whenever you or your allies within 10 yards are healed from any source, they are cleansed of all diseases and poisons. This, I think, is very strong. You have an AoE cleanse on diseases and poisons. I think this is incredibly strong, and it's something that I think many players will take. We were discussing in the Holy Paladin video just how strong this is. You know, you have unholy decays and rogues dishing out poisons all over the place, and you have an AoE cleanse just from a simple heal for 10 yards. That's pretty strong. Mind you, you have to be close to everyone, but because 10 yards is not very long, but still that is pretty awesome. And I'm running all over the place trying to see if I can get out of combat here. And I'm out of combat, yay. So just so I can see right here, Blade of Wrath, I believe it's going to apply, even though it does not say here, it should apply to Blade of Wrath. I do not see any reason why it would not, but that's it. Law and Order is so strong. Back to this tier, Luminescence is your 3rd option. Whenever you're healed by any source, all nearby allies within 10 yards are also healed for 30% of the amount. So this is really a bonus to your healers in your raid, and I think this will probably be the talent taken. If you're in a rated battleground setting, the knowledge, if your healer has the knowledge that you're able to get some AoE healing out of healing just your red paladin, that's really strong, and something that I know healers will take note of, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, for sure. In the 5th tier, we have more really interesting talents. Whenever nearby allies within 40 yards become a victim of a full loss of a control effect, your holy damage and critical strike chance is increased by 3% for 6 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. I do not know if this actually, refreshes in duration each time it stacks. Each time it stacks, but this is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, this is a pretty cool ability, and it kind of goes with the fact that you have the ability of Retribution. Whenever a party or raid member within 40 yards dies, you gain 50% increased damage for 10 seconds. It just plays off of that. It's really cool. It really plays into the Retribution Paladin, and I love what they're doing with it here. Second option here is Blessing of Sanctuary, 25-second cooldown. Instantly removes all stun, silence, fear, and horror effects from the friendly target and reduces the duration of future such effects by 60% for 5 seconds. 25-second cooldown. This is broken. I mean, we're starting to get into the PvP talents that are really making Ret really strong in PvP and a lot of fun. Last option here, and I think this is just as good. Seraphim's Blessing. When you or nearby allies within 40 yards drop below 40% health, you gain Avenging Wrath for 5 seconds. This cannot occur more than once every 60 seconds. I'm going to guess that if you have Crusade, this also applies to it, but Crusade, you wouldn't want to have Crusade if you have Seraphim's Blessing, because Avenging Wrath is, flat damage and healing increased by 35%. Crusade can only get you up to 30%. Crusade really is a PvE talent. It's something that I really just don't see PvPers taking. Because you have to build your way up to it, and if you get out of range of the target at any point in time, even though you may have something really OP like Law and Order, it's just not going to be as good than having the 35 instant burst damage that you can get out of Avenging Wrath. With that being said, Holy Wrath or Divine Purpose would easily be the option for a PvP Paladin. But this is pretty awesome. You have 5 seconds Avenging Wrath really quickly. So once again, this is playing off the Retribution. I mean, this is like the Retribution tier. Blessing of Sanctuary is a little bit different, but honestly, I don't know what I would take in this tier. This is really cool. Probably Vengeance Aura is the worst out of them, if I were to take a guess. Because Seraphim's Blessing is pretty awesome. When someone drops below 40% health, you just it's like an enrage effect. Just like, get off my friend, which is pretty cool. I mean, just think about it. Your wings are going to pop if someone near you actually drops below 40% health, and then you're like, oh man, I gotta deal with this Paladin now, but you don't realize that it's only for 5 seconds, and it doesn't use Avenging Wrath's cooldown, and then when it drops off, they're like, oh man, I dropped off for no reason, and then you can use Avenging Wrath on them, which is really cool. That brings us to the final PvP tier. I'm having way too much fun with with talents on Ret Paladin. I apologize for this video being so long. Lawbringer increases the duration of Judgment effect by 30 seconds, and anytime you cast Judgment, all enemies with your Judgment effect suffer 5% of their total health in holy damage. So just think about this. I have to kind of lay this out for you. So if I use Judgment on a target, Judgment is an 11-second cooldown. So I use Judgment on a target and it lasts for 30 seconds. I can go ahead and use Judgment on another target, and it will cause the other targets with Judgment to lose 5% of their total health in holy damage. I don't know why it says in holy damage. I mean, 5% of the total health is 5% of the total health. Does it really matter what type of damage it is? I don't really know. So all enemies with your Judgment effect suffer their 5% of their total health in holy damage. Now, just remember, if you take Greater Judgment, you're hitting 3 targets, and they all have the Judgment effect on them. So, let's just say you hit 8. You have a chance to hit 8 targets in that 30-second time period. Okay. The only problem is that you will not be able to use Judgment because there's no resetting of the cooldown on Judgment. You will not be able to use Judgment a 3rd time and get it off on all 4 targets. So basically, you use Judgment and you get 4 targets hit with that, and then you use Judgment again on some other target, and it will deal 5% of the damage on all those other targets easily. And so as you continue to use Judgment on different targets and so forth, you will continue to deal 5% of their total health in holy damage every time you use Judgment over and over again. So this can be really powerful. And 30% increased duration on its taking 20% increased damage from your holy power spenders is pretty strong. So this has great rated battleground potential, and possibly some 3v3 you know, 5v5 arena potential. Is 5v5 still around? 3v3 arena, possibly 5v5. I can't even remember if 5v5 is still around. Arena potential. It's really great. I personally think it's really an option. But we gotta look at these other talents. We have Divine Punisher. Using Judgment on the same enemy you judged last, generate 2 holy power. Considering the amount of holy power that you can generate with all the other abilities, this is useless, in my opinion. You have great sticking power with Law and Order. Really, Divine Punisher, just you'd be so oversaturated with holy power. I have a feeling you would, I think, be generating so much holy power you wouldn't know what to do with all of it, in my opinion. The last option here, though, is Hammer of Reckoning. 56-second cooldown, 30-yard range, hurls a magical hammer that strikes an enemy for 52,000 holy damage. When you or allies with your greater blessings take damage, the damage of your Hammer of Reckoning increases. So this encourages you to spread your blessings. Spread your greater blessings to different partners, which is completely okay with me. I will gladly put Greater Blessing on Might on a character with a really high attack speed. I will gladly put Greater Blessing Kings on a tanky target with a lot. Well, actually, I would probably put it on a healer with that is focused a lot, and then I would put Greater Blessing Wisdom on like a tank or something, so that they can continue to increase their health throughout the thing. And when all of them are taking damage, I'm not sure how high this rises, but I'm guessing that it could rise pretty high. I'm not sure where the max stacks is or whatever it would be. That's something that I'll have to tell. I'll have to check inside an actual battleground. Once again, the reason I do not do battlegrounds is because it's an uncontrolled environment. It's difficult to get into a battleground, and it's difficult to narrate within a battleground, and I can't change talents within battleground, so that's why I'm not showing you guys these inside a battleground. But this has potential to be really powerful. I think it is not a mistake that they put the same icon as Hammer of Wrath here with Hammer of Reckoning. This is kind of their replacement. So this could be very strong, and we don't have a threshold that we have to meet. We just have a really powerful 1 minute cooldown 30-yard range hammer to the face, which is pretty cool. So for this tier, I'll definitely be choosing either Hammer of Reckoning or Lawbringer. I think they're both interesting, awesome options. Probably only taking Lawbringer if I decide to take Greater Judgment, which is very possible because I don't think you'll have any downtime with Fires of Justice. However, the 20% chance to get a reduced cost on your next damaging or healing Holy Power ability is pretty awesome as well. So overall, Ret Paladins have awesome talent trees. Some of the best talent trees, period. And it's to make up for the crap for the fact that they've had crappy talent trees for so long. I mixed up my words there. But its talent tree has sucked for so long, in my opinion. I'm so glad that the talent tree is coming out for Ret in this new expansion. It's just awesome. And I'm really excited for Paladins as a whole. I can't wait to get to the prod video. I need tanks to get in a more stabilized place for me to even do a tank, because they're too much in an OP status right now, and I'm afraid of them just getting kind of really whacked with the nerf bat, and then I'd have to redo everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this alleviated any concerns you guys had with the first video and kind of the downside of PvP, and I hope that basically Law and Order will alleviate pretty much every concern that is going to happen in PvE. And honestly, if you guys think this will get nerfed, and my voice is dying here, I'm sorry, just know that if you've seen my Survival Hunter video, that Survival Hunters have an ability that basically is a 40-yard route on a 1-second cooldown. So don't expect this to get nerfed before that, is what I would say. It could happen in the same patch, but for the most part, I think this one will be somewhat safe. They may reduce it to like 2 seconds for the Blade of Justice applying Hand of Hindrance, but overall I think it's going to be good. One thing I forgot to mention is if Blade of Justice is the one that applies Hand of Hindrance, and you already have Hand of Hindrance on cooldown, and someone dispels that as well, I'm not sure if it reduces it again by another 15 seconds, thus putting your Hand of Hindrance up, which would be really awesome. And I think that's the way it probably will work, but we'll see how that... We're going to have to see and test out in Battleground how that would actually work. So, my voice is clearly just spent and dying. This is the 4th video that I've done today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm so ready to get back on my Ret Paladin and have tons of fun in PvP. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Tearless out.